Hello and welcome to the Record Rangers podcast. I'm Fraser Wilson and I'm pleased to say I'm joined by Record Sports' Scott McDermott to pour over a real sobering night for Rangers against Club Brugge in last night's Champions League playoff. Scott, I guess there's a few hangovers and headaches amongst Rangers fans this morning, confused or maybe more concerned about exactly where this team's going. I mean, where to start with last night? Basically, what did you make of that 95 minutes?
Confused and dazed, Fraser. I think they're definitely dazed waking up this morning. After that, feels like we've had so many of these kind of morning after the night before chats. But look, it was a sobering night for Rangers, a kind of chastening Champions League experience, if you want to call it that. First 45 minutes was an absolute disaster for Russell Martin and these players. They get into the game. Russell Martin had actually spoken in the week about how a really good atmosphere around the training ground. Spirits were high, tempo was good. For 2 minutes, they actually did okay in the game as soon as it started. But look, there's a huge mistake for the first goal. A real horrible mix-up between Nasser Giga and Jack Butland. I'll be curious to get your take on that. A wee bit later, been in the goalkeepers union yourself. My own instincts at the game, and it was probably in line with Jack Butland in the press gantry. I think with situations like that where you're a bit unsure about who's at fault, you have to go with your kind of gut instinct, and my gut was that Jack Butland should have come out for it. It was his ball. I mean, Giga doesn't cover himself in glory by kind of turning his back on the play and no being alert. But as that ball's played through, I think it's Jack Butland's every day of the week. So it was a disastrous start, and that really set the tempo for a dire first half performance. I mean, the second goal's for a corner. I mean, basic corner. Bruge create a bit of space. The boys left in acres, made the freedom Ibrox inside the box to kind of put in the second. And at that point, obviously you've been there, as you know, the crowd start to turn. They're anxious anyway, even getting into the game. That makes it even worse. They start getting in the players' backs. And see, at that moment, and this is the kind of bigger picture, I think, with Rangers in this squad, is that we have seen it so many times over the years when there's negative moments and a bit of adversity, rather than stand up, stand tall, open up their shoulders. These Rangers players seem to shrink. You see them get into their shells physically. No wanting the ball, no one to run. Suddenly there's lead in their boots. When they feel that kind of vitriol for the supporters. And listen, I'm not saying it's no tough. It's a really difficult environment to play football, and we know that because of the demands. But when it went 3-0, it became really toxic. The third goal defensively they didn't do well enough either, even though it's a great strike. But at that point, Fraz, honestly, being at the game, you felt this could be 5 or 6 here. I mean, this could be a really bad night for them. And Russell Martin was getting it in the neck, obviously, for fans. The rage that was coming down for the main stand was quite unprecedented. Maybe it isn't, given the kind of travails of Rangers in the last 10 years, but it wasn't nice. And look, he gets him in at half time. This Rangers team are renowned for, once they go a few goals behind, or once they get a kind of team talk at half time, they normally improve in the second half. They did that. They get a goal quite early through Danilo, and you think, they've maybe got a wee chance here. If they can get a second, then who knows what might happen. But even then, and I know Russell Martin really praised the second half performance, but even then, once they get the first goal, they didn't really carry that momentum on. They didn't keep the crowd with them to go and get a second. And look, Bruge had a couple of chances themselves in the second half. Butland's made a couple of saves, so it could have been a lot worse. At 3-1, the tie looks pretty much dead. They're a good side at home. You'd fancy them to go and finish the job, but no, it was a real sobering night for Rangers. I mean, what did you think yourself?
Talk about shooting yourself in the foot. You with that start, you mentioned that when the going get tough, and like you say, I've felt that toxicity at Ibrox before. I remember Aberdeen in Beale's last game.
Yeah,
I was there last season for Clermont's last game against St Mirren. I only watched on TV last night, but I think even through the telly, I could tell. I think it was a new level.
yeah.
And I mean, we're not even a full month into the new manager's first term. It's terrible. What you mentioned players kind of reverting to or shrinking again when they go and gets tough like that, and yet more than half that team are new signings. You know, there was 6 new signings in that team, and more came off the bench. Why does this keep happening at Rangers? You got a new manager, you got new owners, chairman, chief executive, half a new team, and it still comes back to the same thing. Well, why is that?
Yeah, and £20 million spent on new players as well. Look, it's difficult to know why. It's at that point where you need to question players' mentality. I mean, Russell Martin signed a lot of these new players, and he must believe that they can handle the demands of playing at Ibrox and playing under pressure and and playing with a bit of adversity, and not just playing with it, but turning it around and coming back from it. Now, at the moment, it doesn't look as if a lot of these new players have that. I mean, he was adamant, the manager was adamant after the game last night that, perversely, that will be a really good experience for the likes of Rothwell and Aarons and people like that, because they've kind of lived that pain for 45 minutes and they will come out the other side better. I need to be honest, I mean, I'm not convinced by that, because, as I say, you look at the reaction in the game, and as I say, rather than go and take responsibility, a lot of them just go into their shells. And as you say, these are new players. This isn't there's a few of the old guards still there who have been kind of tainted by failure in the last few years. But as you say, you'd expect newer players not to feel that. I mean, look, one of the positives on the night, and there weren't many, was Gassama, who I thought was outstanding for them, right? Yeah. Even in the first half, by the way, when they were under the cosh, he was still the guy that was taking the ball. And you look at him, Fraz, and you think, well, I mean, to me, I can see he has got the mentality to play for Rangers 100%. And this is a young, 22-year-old, I think, is French kid who they've taken for Sheffield Wednesday. Has no feeling for Rangers, doesn't know the history or the background or whatever before he arrives. But my God, you can tell the boy's mentality's spot on, because and it's not about shouting and bawling at people and stuff like that. Real leadership is courage and taking responsibility, taking the ball under pressure, making things happen. I mean, Gasama decided last night, when Rangers are toiling, I'm going to be the one that makes a difference. I'm going to go and impact this game and influence it. And he did, and he very nearly got a second goal to make it 3-2. Obviously, was disallowed by VAR, rightly or wrongly. So I think a lot of these players have to look at him. As I say, a 22-year-old French kid, but it doesn't matter. They need to look at him and see how he deals with it, how he responds to a bit of negativity, but he doesn't let it affect him. Doesn't let the crowd get in his back. He's still at it, still sharp, still hungry, still showing an appetite to go and get in the ball. I think there's a real lack of that. And look, the thing about last night, coming away from it, I know Russell Martin's trying to be positive afterwards about the second half performance, but I think the really important thing is that flurry of urgency and enthusiasm in the second half can't mask what went on in the first, because it's just nowhere near good enough. It's unacceptable, even against a good side like that. So I'm sure we'll go on to what kind of Russell Martin actually said, but no, don't the fans aren't daft. I mean, they will not be fooled, as I say, by a little flurry, a little bit of players running a bit harder in the second half to try and make things happen. That level of intensity and that tempo should have been from kickoff, and it clearly wasn't there.
Scott, there's a truth that it's easier, certainly for players of a certain mentality, it's easier to play when they're 3-0 down than when it's 0-0, because the game's almost gone. You've almost got nothing to lose. A mistake isn't going to be quite as costly. It's at 0-0 that big players step up. So that second half performance, and I agree with you, it was much, much better. I still thought that's no camouflage in anything. And
what did you think? What did you think of the Butland?
You're right. I mean, there was a great angle that looked straight down the pitch, and you can see why Giga expects him to come, because Butland does start coming. Now, I've been in that situation at a far lower level, but see a ball straight over the top is the hardest one to judge, because you get no angle on it. So Butland started to come, and I think he's been spooked when it bounced, and it's not bounced as close to him as what he maybe expected it to. And he does that kind of running on the spot and stops. So at that point, that is exactly why a centre-half should never stop. You've got to cover. I mean, when a goalie comes off his line, that's him. There's nobody to cover him. So Giga has got to track Romeo Vermont back. So it's probably 50-50, the blame there. Butland should have kept coming and cleared it, but Giga can't just stop and expect them to come the whole way. So it's between the two of them, and I still cannot take away for the fact the finish was absolutely sublime.
The other thing about that, Fraz, is, and again, and listen, maybe it's been a bit harsh, but Giga's a young player as well. Butland's your experienced guy. He's vice-captain last year. He's been there. He knows the atmosphere and all that. And look, I know he's made a judgment call in that moment. It's easy for us to say, but again, you're looking for the goalkeeper just to go and take responsibility there. I'll be the guy. Even if he thinks Giga's going to run back, Butland should be saying, no, screaming, this is my ball, it's coming through to me, I'll deal with it. And again, it's that lack of decisiveness. Do you know what I mean?
He's changed his mind at the crucial moment, and that's what's killed him. But Giga could have got him out of jail. But no, look, it's equally Butland's fault, if not slightly more. So he could see it in his face. The camera, straight afterwards, he could see it in his face. He wasn't pointing fingers. He knew fine well that he had put himself in a position where he was miles out of position. I was actually more aghast at the second goal, because I said that the first goal is a mistake on two players' part, one player's part. The second one is actually the way Rangers are set up. There's 4 Bruge players around the edge of the box. I mean, it's basics to have somebody on the edge of the box. And the way, the way the lad, I can't even mind his name, sorry, the way the lad strode into the box and just side-footed home is absolutely, I mean, if that doesn't raise alarm bells, I don't know what does. That was the worst of the 3 goals for me. To quickly get to the third one, Danilo's got to be far stronger in his challenge with the boy. There seems to be too many Rangers players don't have that sense of danger about them when they're around their own box to really defend with aggression and power. And the life depends on it. The alarm bells don't seem to ring. So Danilo goes in half-hearted. Was it Vanaken? Who scored the third one?
Michele scored the third one.
Aye. Shrugs off Danilo and then obviously comes away with a wonder strike. Absolutely superb strike. Nobody's stopping that. But all 3 goals, horrendous, and not even 20 minutes on the clock. It was the biggest own goal Rangers, the worst start they could ever have dreamt of, and raises serious questions about how they're being set up defensively by a manager who's a centre-half.
I know. That's what I was going to say. The second goal, you're right about the second goal, because I mean, it's so preventable. I mean, the Rangers are set up, obviously, this kind of zonal system in the box. So there's guys marking nobody. Bruge recognise that, and I've obviously seen, watching Rangers, there's space there. And as you say, the guy just strolls into the box. As long as the delivery's right, he's going to get a free shot at goal. And just generally, I mean, that was a worry as well post-match last night. I mean, the manager, Nicky Hyen, came in.
I read that
After the game, and I mean, basically said we played them in that pre-season friendly, and we knew where the spaces were, all over the pitch. And I knew as long as my players were at it, then we would go and exploit it. I mean, that's got to be quite damning, I think, for Rangers and Russell Martin.
A bit there, isn't he?
I
thought they might be pals for his time in Wales.
Exactly. But it feels like, so they've had that friendly, where, by the way, Bruge murdered Rangers in the first half of the friendly as well, before making changes and kind of taking the foot off the gas in the second. They did that in the friendly game as well. So it feels like they learnt for that. They had a good look at Rangers that day, saw a few weaknesses and thought, right, here's where we can expose that. Whereas Rangers have obviously seen Bruges in the friendly, but not really learned anything from it. And that has to be a worry. Look, the defending in general, and I know Rangers have brought in Mike Williamson, part of the coaching team, former Newcastle centre-back. I know he does a lot of work on the set pieces, and obviously the kind of defensive drills. And I think it's a worry at the moment for them. They're conceding. We spoke earlier on this season about conceding far too many chances.
Yeah.
And the fear was that if a team came to Ibrox or they went up against a team who actually went and took their chances, it could be a really bad day for Rangers. And I watched them at the weekend against Alloa. They won 4-2, but again, defensively all over the shop against a Scottish lower league team. And when you step up that level, I said before the game, I thought Bruges were a really good side, having watched them at Celtic Park last season, the Champions League. So I kind of feared that something like that might happen. You mentioned Van Aken. He was amazing against Celtic, and he absolutely strolled it again last night, the captain. I mean, ran most of the game. So I just think defensively, Russell Martin's got real issues. And I know fans are already, and maybe it's a bit early, but they're already questioning, three of the back four now are loan players for us.
Yeah.
3 of the back 4 are loans. If you actually include Tavernier and Suter in that, it's 3 loan players and then 2 guys in the last year of their deals.
Yeah.
We know inkling of signing another deal. That has to be a concern. I mean, where's the long term planning there? Do you know what I mean? Where's the joined up thinking of what Rangers defence is going to look like in a year or two? And listen, I know they need to get it right now. I mean, we've been saying that. God, I've been banging on about that in terms of this season. Russell Martin had to hit the ground running. He needs results and performances almost instantly. But you've got to have some eye on what it's going to look like eventually. And you look at Giga, for instance. She actually started the campaign pretty well, but he's a poor couple of games. He's a 10 million player at Wolves, so the chances of Rangers getting him on a permanent, to me, look very unlikely. Max Aaron's another loan player who's, again, has had a poor start to life at Rangers.
Yeah.
You would have probably said he'd have been out their price range as well, although the way he's playing now, I don't know whether Rangers fans would actually want him back next season anyway. And again, I know it's still early, but just defensively, as well as how they're actually playing on the pitch, I think that has to be certainly a worry for supporters. Whether Russell Martin sees it that way, I'm not sure. But 3 of the back 4 on loan can't be an ideal situation for Rangers to be in.
Definitely not. Let's get back to the booze, Scott, and not the good type. It was, I mean, this is becoming the norm at Ibrox. I've seen it and felt it under Michael Beale, Philippe Clement many a time, Barry Ferguson with the Hibs game last season. Almost every home game that Martin's been in charge now, maybe the Pilsen one, there has been moments, half time in his very first game in charge against Panathinaikos, because funnily enough, I did this podcast after that game and I got a bit of grief for being a bit hard on Rangers after the 1-2-0, which I accepted. I just saw the warning signs in that first half against Panathinaikos 4 weeks ago. And to be honest, I think it's got worse. So You mentioned that. We all heard it, whether we were at the game or watching on TV. Lots and lots of Rangers fans have made their mind up here. In fact, my neighbour was telling me on Monday that there was still quite a lot of tickets left for what is a Champions League playoff.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if they eventually got sold or what, but has it already gone too far with Russell Martin? Which sounds ridiculous because the guy's only a month into the actual season starting. But do you feel he can't turn it round now? Are too many fans too far gone with him?
I don't know if I'd say like he can't turn it round, but in the fans' eyes, in terms of him turning it round with the team on the pitch, but in the fans' eyes, I think he's got some job in his hands to try and win them over now for us, because, and the biggest problem here is that they didn't want him in the first place. No, the vast majority of supporters, if we cast our minds back to the summer, were totally underwhelmed by the appointment. No, they thought they deserved better. I think they looked at how it ended for him at Southampton. I think they even looked at his records at Swansea and MK Dons and wondered, is that really good enough to be a Rangers manager? I think they also had fears. about the playing style, about this kind of this possession for possession's sake, which has been a criticism of Russell Martin's teams, as has kamikaze defending at Southampton in the Premier League last season, which ultimately kind of cost him his job. So they were all the kind of worries and concerns that Rangers fans had when he got the job. And unfortunately for him, most of those have kind of borne out in what we're watching on the pitch. He had to get off to a quick start, and I keep saying it, but in the league, the fixtures were relatively kind.
Yeah.
He had to win those first two league games. I mean, see, in terms of the Bruges game and the Bruges tie overall, I don't think a lot of people expected Rangers. I know fans turn up expecting to win every game, but the people that know football and look at Bruges, I don't think many people expected Rangers to beat Bruges. I think it's probably too early for this Rangers team to seriously get into the Champions League group stage and expect to compete. I think there's a general consensus that at the moment the Europa League group stage is kind of where they belong. But the league games, for us, it had to get off to a good start in the league, and to me, that's what's killing Russell Martin at the moment is this start, and the thought in fans' heads of being behind Celtic already. They could be even further behind on Sunday, or they will be further behind if Celtic beat Livingston on Saturday before Rangers have kicked a ball again. And then the thought of Brendan Rodgers and Celtic coming to Ibrox a week on Sunday for the first Old Firm game. Look, in terms of the booing and the jeering, I don't know about you, but I mean, as a fan, I don't think I would ever boo my own players or my own team. I mean, it'd need to get pretty bad. But these Rangers fans have had enough for us, and whether you agree with that or no, you're now getting close to 15 years, bar one season, or maybe you could say 2 seasons, getting to Seville, the Europa League final, win the Scottish Cup under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. So maybe 2 seasons out of, you're talking the 14, getting into 15. It's been utter pain and agony for them. I mean, it has been torture for them. So they have ran out of patience. They needed somebody to come in this summer. And look, there was excitement and a bit of optimism there, obviously, with the new owners coming in, knowing there was going to be a bit of financial backing. But they needed a manager to really get a grip of this team. Change the mentality quickly. Get a tune out of players who haven't delivered enough in the last 3 or 4 years. And I'll say it again, to go and hit the ground running in the league this season. I said it before, and probably punters maybe kind of criticised. To me, this season, Europe pretty much means nothing to Rangers. Celtic are at 4 in a row. going for 5, dreaming of 9 and 10 again. Brendan Rodgers potentially in his last year at Celtic. For Rangers to get back to where they want to go to, forget Europe, you have to become the number 1 team in Scotland again. The league had to be the priority. Yeah. And they're already points behind, and as I say, it could get worse for them at the weekend. And that, for me, that's where the fury comes from. That's where the anger and the ire comes from for the stands. So, I mean, how do you get it back? Start winning league games, and he has to win at St Mirren on Sunday.
You've teed me up perfectly, mate, because that's where I was going with this. I think this St Mirren team will be absolutely licking the lips ahead of Sunday. Now, I saw them do for Philippe Clement, as I mentioned, last season, and it was a game where I don't want to sound disrespectful. St Mirren bullied Rangers in a really good way. All over the pitch, they're such a powerful team. From back to front, every area, every player empties the tank and is physical and aggressive. And you keep hearing Russell Martin saying that's what he's wanting for his players. He's wanting that aggression, that high tempo. He's not getting it. I think Rangers are actually worse now under this style than they were that day when St Mirren beat them at Ibrox. I would fear for Rangers on Sunday going to Paisley. And I think Stephen Robinson will have been watching this and will have his players right up for doing more damage. And I mean, if they lose, or even if they don't win on Sunday, a Celtic win again at the weekend, what was that? 7 points going into an Old Firm, and they've only got only played 3 games. It's incredible. Have they not already made the worst start in 60 odd years or something to a Premier League campaign, Rangers? I'm sure they had that start last week. So it must be really concerning for fans.
Listen, I totally agree about Sunday. The thing about Sunday, Fraz, is you've touched on it there. Every Rangers fan, certainly every Rangers fan I know, that right now they have a vision in their head of what Sunday's going to look like for them, because they've been there so often. They've got an image in their head of how this game's going to go. It's midday on a Sunday. St Mirren are going to be right up for it, especially after Rangers kind of messing them about a wee bit. Want to postpone the fixture, then kind of reinstating it, and there'll be a wee bit of motivation for that, I'm sure, for St Mirren. If they didn't have enough already. In terms of how they'll play, you just know it's probably going to be Mandron and Ayunga up front, 2 powerhouses. They are going to look at the way Rangers are playing it for the back. They are going to look at maybe Emmanuel Fernandez, who you would think is going to come in for Giga, who's suspended. Young guy, relatively inexperienced, likes to play out for the back. St Mirren and Stevie Robinson, as you say, will lick their lips at that prospect of a guy coming in for the cold and going to St Mirren and trying to play that brand of football. They will be all over Rangers' defence, especially in the early part of the game. And look, that's not taking anything away from St Mirren, because you're actually looking at them and they're arguably playing better football than what the Rangers are playing at the minute. They've got good players, like O'Hara and Bacchus and people like that. So it's going to be a massive test for Rangers. A massive test, not just physically in terms of their football ability, but getting back to what we spoke about at the very start, mentality, as I say, turning up there at midday on a Sunday, knowing you have to win. I mean, you just have to win by hook or by crook, and to do that, you're going to need to have a bit of steel about you physically and mentally to get through that game. So I say he's going to have to make a change at the back. Whether James Tavernier comes back in, I mean, that's another thing we've not really touched on, but left out a huge game again last night. Will he come back in?
Scotty, I think he's a better option than Max Aarons. There you go. I'll say it right now. I think James Tavernier at right back performs better, even defensively, than Max Aarons. I've been so disappointed in Max Aarons defending. In fact, his entire game.
I don't think many punters would disagree with you, Frizz. And the irony is that these same fans had probably kind of had enough of James Tavernier at the end of last season. They wanted a new right back, and they see Max Aarons coming in with his kind of background and where he's been, effectively a Premier League right back and think, perfect, this is exactly what we need. But you're right, I mean, Aaron's is just, I know Russell Martin said it was his best game last night so far, but I mean, he's just shown very little of what he's capable. I mean, I think most Rangers fans expected him to be this attacking fullback, no marauding up and down the flank and overlapping. No, a bit like, to be fair, the boy Megoma did last night for the goal. No, had a really good kind of overlap, or might have been an underlap going inside, teaming up with Gassama and whipping a ball in for De Niro to score. I think that's what people thought Max Aarons was going to be, but he seems to constantly want to come inside, constantly want to come in field, constantly want to turn back. His first thought, and maybe it's just a lack of confidence coming into a new club and not getting off to a great start, but his first thought always seems to be to go back, maybe. And as you know, at Ibrox, that's just known in the eyes of the supporters. I mean, they want you to go forward at every opportunity. So, well, I wouldn't disagree with you. I wouldn't be surprised if Martin makes a few changes and Tavernier's one of them, he might come back in. I think Mikey Moore's probably pushing for a place. Asgard, he might look at in midfield, because I think Diomandi's been so disappointing as well so far this season. I thought he was really poor last night. Diomandi, I'm not sure what he's bringing to the party at the moment. So his team selection will be crucial, but it doesn't matter who he picks. I mean, they need to go and pick up 3 points at the weekend before going to Bruge, but more importantly, before getting into that Celtic game a week on Sunday.
Absolutely. Scott, I think we're out of time, mate. I think that is everything up. So, onward, unless something else to add?
No, that's fine. I think we've covered all for us.
Right, onwards and upwards. Thank you very much for joining us in the podcast, folks. Don't forget you can join us around about the same time next week. Goodbye.